your only option to raise money when you have no money. So I knew I wanted to flip, and the only way to do this business was to have a little bit of money. I didn't have it. So I had the knowledge. I was starting to learn how to home inspect. I knew I wanted to do it. I was starting to learn, but I didn't have money. So I just started learning from people that were like, hey, you got to raise capital.
What is up, Growth House family? It is your host, Jesse Ray. I'm here with Tommy. And before we get into it, I got to give you guys a little bit of background on him. He is a home inspector turned real estate investor, Columbus, Ohio, representing out there. And he's been in the game for 6 years in real estate, flipped, renovated over 150 houses using private money, which I would love to dive into that. Wholesaled over 150 deals, has 110 unit rental portfolio worth $17 million. And also what's very interesting is that you've grown organically to over 180,000 followers on Instagram. And that is not easy to do. So I would love to dive into that. So Tommy, before we get started, just welcome and appreciate you being on the show.
What's up, brother? I appreciate you welcoming me with open arms and excited to dig into some stuff and hopefully help out your audience.
Absolutely. So let's start with just that backstory. I mean, you're young. What are you, 30, 31?
Yeah. Just turned 30 in August. So
Man, so you're it's funny because I read this other day where if you're between the ages of like 16 and I believe it's 26 or maybe 27, you're like young blood. But then once you get to like 26, like 30, 26 to 35, you're big bro. So I'm 31. I'm in the big bro category. And then once you get to 35, then they start calling you Unc. And I'm like, I'm not ready for that. I was very happy that I still got like 4 years until they start calling me Unc.
Somebody called me big bro today, actually. That's funny.
Yeah, see, now you're kind of in that big bro stage. Well, dude, yeah, start me off. How'd you get into real estate? I think it was part of your family was already in it, and you kind of fill me in on that journey.
Yeah, my dad I'm one of 5 kids. My dad has been a real estate entrepreneur my whole life. So when he knew he was getting the can, he worked at like Radio Shack back in the day, if anybody knows what that is. And he was a safety inspector. So he bought a home inspection franchise about 25 years ago. And he ran with that. And then meanwhile, a bank called him and was like, hey, can you winterize a house? So when the banks were foreclosing on everything around 2007, he started a property preservation company. So the banks needed somebody, boots on the ground, to trash them out, basically preserve their assets. So I grew up in that business, is the long story short of it. So I grew up trashing out houses, boarding them up, changing locks, following my dad around doing that stuff. So kind of see the nasty side of real estate growing up. I just knew nothing about it. I just knew that that's what the jobs were, and I thought it was normal. And then as I graduated college in 2017, I'm the oldest boy. I told my dad always I would come back and help him work. That business was no longer, and the home inspection business was still there. So I became a home inspector, started learning the trades, and kind of just got my feet wet doing that business. Learned the home inspections, and it wasn't really, I wouldn't even call it really a business. When he got a phone call, he would go do it. So I had to learn marketing. I had to learn sales. I had to learn basically like how to bootstrap a business with no marketing budget. And that was a really, really big leg up as I started to grow.
I always love talking and asking people about family businesses because I think that's like a lot of our community is a lot of 7, 8, 9-figure entrepreneurs. And they're between 30 to 45 and they're starting families, or they already have families. They have kids that are growing up, and they're always like, I really want my kids to work in my business or, be a part of this lifestyle, but I don't want to push them or force them to. So what was that like growing up with, kind of an entrepreneurial father who has, a business or kind of a business that was, self-employed?
He didn't really push me into it at all. I just always liked money. And he was like, hey, if you mow the lawn, you can make money. If you go trash these houses out, you can make money. Hey, if I was like 14, 15, I played soccer and there were older guys that had trucks. Hey, if you want to go with them and mow some lawns, you can make some money. So I was like, okay, just working for my dad seems normal. He's very laid back. He never pressured me to do anything, but he's also pretty hard nosed. I mean, I saw him waking up at 4 a.m. every day, take care of all the kids, take them to work. So I saw the lifestyle that you can have, like one, work really hard, but also be there every day for your wife, your kids, and all that stuff, and take care of them. So I fell in love with that idea. So the family business side, where it got tricky was he had already had those businesses for 20 years. He went through people stealing from him in the property preservation. He had 60 employees. He had this big business, and then he got worn out from it. And when I came in, I'm young. I want to build this thing. I want to take it to the moon. He's like, dude, I've already tried that shit. I'm not on your wavelength right now. And that was where the disconnect, it wasn't bad blood. It was just, hey, I don't want to go here. So when I was building my wholesaling and flipping business, and eventually he was just like, dude, you got to spread your wings. You got to go do this on your own.
Yeah, I'm curious. I want to dive into the wholesaling business, everything you got going on right
Okay.
now. When he was telling you, like, hey man, I got burnt out, and you saw this 60, person company kind of go to maybe nothing, were
Yeah.
you probably at the time you're not like, oh, here's a learning lesson,
No.
but now looking back, are you like, man, this is the one thing I really learned from that?
So he is a very, very hard worker, but he is not a manager. He did not have tight systems. He did not check over. He hired basically family friends and people that like moms of baseball people I was playing with, and they were doing computer work, making like 80 grand a year because they were making so much money from the banks at that time. Because the banks you did, and they needed this stuff done. So they were making so much cash. And it was good when it was good, but when they started to turn was when he over leveraged on that side and didn't have any check balances on that stuff. So there was money just flying around everywhere and he just couldn't sustain it. So as we grow this business now, it's okay, you got to have good processes. You got to have stop gaps. You got to have good accounting. You got to know where every cent is at. And you got to have somebody waving that red flag when there's something not right.
For sure. And you're like, SOPs now, first thing we got to focus on.
VAs, SOPs, it's
Yeah.
a game changer.
I love it. Okay, so you're doing that in college, and then after college, you were still helping them, or is that when you kind of spread your wings and did your own thing?
No, so after college is when I became the home inspector. So I became a home inspector. I'm helping him build his business. I hired a home inspector, was kind of building that business out. We probably 5x the revenue within like 3 to 4 years. It was good, but there's a cap. Like in that business, when you can hire a bunch of inspectors, it's a service business. When you go out there, you can work, you can make good money, but the more you do, the more labor you have to have. And there's no like exponential bell curve growth to that. You can grow it, it's great, but I was starting to wholesale on the side and I started to flip on the side. And when you wholesale a house for 20 grand, my dad was only paying me like 32,000 when I started. So I wasn't making this crazy money. And I did it. We did like 2 wholesale deals and I was like, oh, this is crazy. The scale of it. And we talked about this before, but my friend Austin Rutherford, mentor friend, it was one of the things he said, like, you can be the best coal miner in the world, but are you going to become a millionaire doing that? And the answer is no. So you take that same hustle, that same mindset, and you pop it into a different vehicle and you can just really, really take off. Because I think that's where a lot of young people are lacking is the hard-nosed, work your ass off attitude that the older folks, big bro, can teach you how to do.
Yeah, I feel like you're throwing some shade at the West Coast, man. Relax. But no, you're so right, man. Yeah, especially our generation, I think, slowly got a little bit softer. And we're looking at our parents, like you said, 4 o'clock in the morning. My dad was the same, waking
Yeah,
up super early. I didn't see him until
right.
sometimes I did see him during the day because he
I know.
was, I was
Great.
asleep and he was coming back home. So I think it's really important, though, to have those role models growing up. So
Great.
yeah, I was blessed just like you to have that.
Good.
Okay, so the wholesale business.
Yeah.
Walk me through. So now you said 20K off of one deal. And now you're like 2 deals. Now that's my whole salary with my pops.
Yeah.
Let's get this thing going.
Yeah, so the wholesaling company now, I mean, wholesaling is the best business in the world. I'll just like say that. I mean, being able to make money kind of out of thin air, it's a lot of work. It's very hard. It's a lot of marketing. But right now, I mean, we spend probably I think 30 grand a month and we're bringing in probably 15 contracts. We'll sell about 10 of them a month. So it's bringing in probably 100 to 150 gross a month. We got 2 sales guys on the phones talking to sellers, acquisition side. We've got a full-time dispo and a full-time transaction coordinator, and then a bunch of VAs kind of sprinkled in on the data side, the lead management side, the follow-up side. And I kind of oversee I oversee the dispo side. I have a business partner that oversees the sales team. So that's the way that business works. And it didn't start like that, obviously. I half-ass wholesaled for years and years, basically would send marketing once or twice a month and wonder why I didn't have any deals. It was because I didn't understand the idea of the consistency side when it comes to marketing. I just didn't know. Nobody told me that stuff. So it took a long time to learn that it's an everyday thing. You have to pound the phones every day. You have to market every day to be able to have consistency.
And what does that look like net wise? What are you guys running for the wholesale company?
We're probably like 60% net.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to stay pretty lean. So for the last 5 years, we spent 8 to 10 on marketing, and then another probably 3 to 4 on like system CRM, skip tracing, because we only did cold calling and texting. We just added in, we doubled our marketing budget. We just started TV ads this month, so we went all in on that. It's been going pretty good. We've gotten like 3 or 4 contracts in 2 weeks. It's been good. I've got a newborn, so I kind of just like I'm holding him in the thing. And,
Oh, in the TV.
that kid's still
This
my
guy knows. This guy.
I still
He's
put
like,
my
I'm
ugly
hitting the.
logo. Yeah. So I put my wife, we're a husband and wife team, and she's not in the business, but She's a pretty blonde with a baby. It's like,
Oh,
how can you not call these two?
that's smart, man. That's smart. I
Yeah.
like that. And then you have, okay, so you still working with your dad on the other business, or you just 100% wholesaling right now?
Yeah, so I'm 100% full-time real estate investing now. I quit home inspecting. This was probably almost 4 years, 3 to 4 years ago. There was just that intersecting point of like, I stayed in it for as long as I could because I was indebted to my family. My dad gave me so much, and I felt bad not helping him out. But I went to a mastermind and met a guy the year prior. And he was like, "What's your goals?" I was like, "I want to retire my parents." I met him the next year. I was growing. I was posting on social media, and he's like, "Hey, how's everything going?" I was like, "Crushing it." He's like, "Well, what are you doing? You still home inspecting?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Why are you still home inspecting?" He's like, "What are your goals?" I was like, "I want to retire my parents." He's like, "Well, ask me this. If you inspected 1,000 more houses with your pops, would you retire him? Would it even move the needle?" I was like, "No, absolutely not." And he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" And I was like, "You're right." So I went back home. There was a little alcohol involved in that conversation, but went home and basically had the conversation with my dad and quit. I was like, he knew the writing was on the wall, but I was like, "Pops, I gotta try this. I'm gonna kick myself if I don't."
And what year was this for context?
This was 2021, I believe. 2021. And the one thing he said, because you get all in your head about certain situations, especially when it comes to family. And he goes, "Dude, I didn't send you to college. I didn't do all these things. I didn't bust my ass for you to do the same exact thing that I did. I did this so you could do more than what I've done." And when he told me that, all the things that you made up made up in my head were erased. And I was like, okay, I'm all in on real estate investing. Let's go.
I love it. How's that journey been? Have you been able to retire the parents yet?
Not yet. Well, kind of my mom. So my mom was a teacher for 30 years. She was a ninth grade algebra teacher. And when I was doing my first flip, this was 2017-ish, I was like, "Hey, you want to start flipping houses? You should get your real estate license, sell my houses." Well, I didn't really do much for the first 2 years, but after that, started selling some. But 3 years ago now, I was like, "Mom, what's it going to take?" She's like, "Well, the health benefits." And I was like, "Okay." We started an Airbnb company. I put her on salary and she quit her job. She ran that. The Airbnb company, we shut the doors on that about 2 years ago, or maybe last year. That business sucked. But now she's making like 300, 400 grand just selling all of our houses. It's a non-negotiable for me. If we're doing business, even if we JV, my mom lists the house. I don't care on my side. That's my way of kind of taking care of my parents now.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Would you recommend working with family to anyone else?
If you've got a cool family, I'm lucky enough to have a cool family. My family's a little outrageous. I mean, our dinner table conversations are crazy, but it's fun. And like I got two little brothers. They're both home inspecting with my dad. That stuff's invaluable in my opinion, especially if you want to invest and flip, because you're learning a lot of good stuff. So it's more of a career capital move in the beginning, and also being able to work with your dad. Not many people get that opportunity. So I told my younger brothers, "Hey, you should at least try it. Spend the time with your pops. Not many people get that. You're going to regret it if you don't down the line when he's not here." Then they're flipping houses on the side, and they're 26 and 23, 24. So they're doing the same thing I did.
That's so cool, man. No, I
Yeah.
love that because everyone I talk to in our circle, our community, they're getting to the level where they have so much money, they're so successful, and now they're like looking back, like, "Oh man, now I want to go."
Yeah.
One, usually it's get healthy first, like, let me
Yeah.
get back to fitness and healthy. But number two, it's like I've spent so much time away from my family, and now I want to go back and like build those relationships with the family. And obviously, it's never too late, but it's
Yeah.
definitely harder, and you miss out on a lot of stuff. So the way you're doing it sounds like the most ideal way to start a business, bring them along. So
Yeah.
I love that, man. Just like props to you for doing that.
I appreciate it. It's been great. I mean, we don't see everything eye to eye. Like during COVID, I mean, I'm hard headed. I'm the one that kind of goes against the grain. They kicked me out of the family for a little bit because I wouldn't follow the rules, but we're all good now.
That's awesome, man. So, okay. So we got the rental portfolio. Walk me
Yep.
through that. So single family homes, you said units. So most likely multifamily.
We've got mostly single doubles. So Columbus is a lot of duplexes. If you ever driven down Ohio, in Central Ohio, it's a lot of small multis. You're not missing a whole lot. There's a lot of small multis. The building I'm in is a 33 unit office building we just bought a couple months ago, but it's mostly single family and small multis mixed in. But as we were starting to wholesale a little bit more and we were starting to make more money, the end goal to me is always owning more assets. Like the active income was always the problem. Got to change that, and then let's build some generational wealth. So we just do the Burr method on everything. I raise private money. Learned a lot of that from once again from our man Austin Rutherford. I'm in the deal finding business. I would be stupid not to take some of these down and keep them for myself. So we just stuck like 2021, we really went crazy buying and holding, but it put us in a cash pinch. We're now very selective about what we keep. And as interest rates change, we'll probably keep more.
Before we talk about like your kind of strategy and ways that you were able to raise private capital, what about your rentals and
Yeah.
deciding whether to keep, like, let's say it's a commercial, like why did you decide to keep the commercial versus a duplex versus, something else?
How much cash are we going to keep in it? Well, I mean, obviously, like the yields are good. That's a good question. I mean, the single family stuff in Columbus doesn't really cash flow anymore. It's more of like an appreciation play, and it's what's in front of you. So this kind of dropped in our lap. It came from an eviction list. It came from a cold call, and I like to think that over the years when I was learning this, I was learning everything. So I can evaluate a multifamily deal. I just don't like it's opportunity cost. If I moved away from what I'm doing now to go learn that because I know I got to kiss broker's ass for a year or two. Because somebody asked me that question today. I was like, I know what it takes to actually be successful in that, and I just don't want to do that right now. But if a deal falls in my lap, sure, I'll take it down. I can raise the money. I've got that stuff, but it's just not my main focus.
Talking about raising capital, how'd you
Yep.
get started with that? Because I think that's a lot of people are, I'll just be honest, a lot of people are scared of that. They're like, oh, I can use my own capital, but then using other people's money, it's whoa, that's a whole nother level. So walk me
So
through kind of your process, how you're able to do it.
when I was in the beginning, it's easy to raise money. Not, I guess not easy, but it's your only option to raise money when you have no money. So I knew I wanted to flip, and the only way to do this business was to have a little bit of money. I didn't have it. So I had the knowledge. I was starting to learn how to home inspect. I knew I wanted to do it. I was starting to learn, but I didn't have money. So I just started learning from people that were like, hey, you got to raise capital. To me, that was only ever the only option. So I just kind of stuck with that the whole time. I mean, I used my money for my personal life, reinvesting in my business, but I still raise money for every single deal that we do because there's opportunity costs. Once again, in your own money, like if I go lend private money, I need to get 18 to 22% probably on my cash, and I'm paying somebody 12 for my deals. So it just makes sense. So the way I raise money is social proof. I've been posting since I was a home inspector. I wasn't like tactically posting on social media at that time, but like in the morning, I could be walking a house that's boarded up in the craziest neighborhoods of Columbus to a mansion with a Ferrari in the garage as a home inspector. So I would just pull my phone out and post on my story. And you can be a knucklehead and be in real estate and be in and out, but like if people see you a year after year after year being in it, they're like, they got to be doing something right. So then after a while, one of my mentors was like, hey, you got to actually start posting because you're doing really cool stuff. So now, I mean, social media is a crazy way to raise capital. I mean, I got people that have lent me money that I have no idea what they look like.
Wow. Yeah. Walk me through one of these stories about how someone reached out to you via social media.
Yeah. So I have a guy named Marcio. I've met him now, but had like 200 followers because you never know who people are. And they DM me because I always talk about private money. I talk, hey, and I don't like, sometimes I'm actively raising, but most of the times I'm just throwing in about what I'm doing. Hey, just sold this house, purchase, rehab, sell. My lender made this much. So just always like showing what it is. And then eventually people are going to be like, hey, tell me more about that. So he shot me a DM. His name's Marcio. We had a phone call. And next thing I know, he was lending me $250,000. And he now lends me $1 million at a time. He lives in Tampa, Florida. I had never met him, and I was at a mastermind. He's like, hey, we should probably meet up for dinner because we're doing a lot of business together, you know? But now, I mean, I take it a little bit step further. So this is for the higher level people. Once you start building that out and you start getting interest, you're going to start having the same phone calls over and over again, which is like, hey, how does it work? What does it do? So now I shot a Loom video. It's about 12 to 15 minutes of, hey, thanks for watching this video. Thanks for reaching out. Here are the documents. Here's my note. Here's my mortgage. Here's how you're protected. Here's my returns. Here's some case studies. If you like this video and you want to learn more, here's my phone number. Let's have an actual conversation. So I can cut through the 30 minutes of bullshit that we're going to talk about to like actually start talking numbers and how much you want to deploy and get through the small stuff.
That's crazy. So, okay. So social media has been probably your number one way because you basically, which everyone talks about now, but it's documenting the journey. Like you don't got to be doing anything crazy, but it sounds like you've been doing that 4 or 5 years ago. You're like, this is what I'm doing. I'm documenting it.
Yeah.
So people remember you like, oh, he's doing that. Oh, wait, 2 years later, he's still doing it. This guy's serious. Oh, now he has people lending him money and he's giving returns. So I love that. That's a great little nugget right there. What else in social media wise do you say is like really been impactful for you to grow your brand from, whatever to 180,000 followers?
Yeah. So I just started posting about what I was doing. So I did it 2 ways. One, I'll call it, nothing's right or wrong, but the wrong way for me was how everybody else was doing it. Somebody pushes you to get on social media. You hire a videographer. They come to your office, they follow you around, they shoot everything you do. It makes you anxious, it makes you nervous. You don't really do that much cool shit. So I did that for about a year and I hated it. And it wasn't growing, it wasn't what I wanted. And I was listening to a Hormozy podcast, and his wife, Layla, was like, hey, entrepreneurs, you guys do really cool shit, but that really cool stuff is only 20% of the time. 80% of the time, it's paperwork, it's stress, it's this. Document that 20%. You don't need a camera following you around. You're not Celine Dion. You're not these people. You're not a movie star, right? Your life's not that cool. You don't need the camera following you around. So I was like, and she's like, document that 20. I was like, oh shit, that is true. Then I went back and I was like, okay, fired that guy. And I was like, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to script everything out word for word in my words. I'm going to look at my deal board. I'm going to look at my journey. I'm going to look at whatever it is. I'm going to hook people in with whatever that first line is, give them actual good information that they can learn something from. And then at the end, call to action them. Hey, follow me or go to this and go to that. And after a while, it just started to really, really take off. So, and we track our KPIs. So back in 2021, I think maybe it was 22. No, it's 21. October of 21, 4,000 followers on all platforms. And then just week after week, it just started to grow and grow and grow. But it's been fun.
When was the majority of the success in, follower subscriber count?
2 years in.
Okay.
A year in with the new guy. So 2 years total. So posting, and this is literally like tactical posting every single day. Like I've not missed a day in probably 3 or 4 years.
Tommy, I've done it every other week for like 3 years, man. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure you hear that.
It's like the people that want deals. It's like, hey, I want deals. Like, well, how many phone calls have you made? I called a couple people a week ago. It's like, it's not enough. The outputs are not enough. That's majority of the time. And once again, like I don't want to rag on young people, but it's just young people just don't know what it takes to be successful. They've just seen, like, that's the problem with social media is they've glorified these things and made them sound so easy when they're not.
Take it from two big bros right here, you young people.
Yes, sir.
So are you also doing YouTube, or are you just focused solely on Instagram right now?
Just started on YouTube. It's just a whole different beast, So I've not gotten it down yet. I'm more just doing like going to properties and just talking through things. It's good content, but they're longer. So we just got to buckle down. And I think we've got like 5,000 subs right now.
A couple of my friends and even myself probably here in the next few months, I'm going to get serious about getting like a creative director and like, what does your team look like? Because it sounds like you probably don't need that big of a team, especially if it's 20%. And it sounds like you are actually scripting a lot of your videos.
Yeah. So I write all my videos. I've got a full-time guy, and we got an education business too. So he helps with like a lot of the call to actions and hey, comment the word one or the letter one, and we'll send you a free training or whatever it is. So he goes to our team on that side, the VA, and they'll script that out. But he chops them up. We shoot videos. He comes up with ideas and hooks. The only thing that I need mostly is like writer's block is real. I'm not really that creative. But over time, it's just like, man, what else can you talk about? Like, because you just exhaust things. And I don't like to post things twice. Probably a bad thing, but I like to keep everything new and fresh.
So one of my friends, Brian, he has like probably every other month they have reels that go viral. He's like, dude, 3 months later, they forget about it, goes viral again. So I don't know, Tommy, that might be leaving,
I've posted a few of like, if we run out, I'll do it, but that's definitely true.
I was going to ask you, what's the most wildest or creative deal you've done?
Oh man, I don't do a lot of creative stuff. I guess we're doing one right now that's pretty creative. We bought a house for $350, and the lady needs to stay in there for 12 to 18 months. So she agreed to rent it back for $2,600. It's worth like $550 as is, and it needs 80 grand of rehab. So I raised private money. I did the deal. Those are balloon payments at the end. So I was collecting that rent, and now I refinanced into a hard money loan. So my hard money payment's $3,500. She's paying me $2,600. So worst case scenario, I know these numbers because I wrote this video yesterday. Worst case scenario with those offsets in 18 months, I'm out of pocket of interest payments, $16,000, $200. And so I'll be all in $360,000. When she moves out, it'll be worth $600. I can either sell it as is, or I can fix it up and sell it. So nothing crazy, but that's a creative little thing. Like I'm willing to take on, because we have property management in house, I'm willing to take on crazy evictions. I'm willing to take on terrible situations that other people aren't.
What's the craziest situation? Come on, I need a clip from you, Tommy. Give me some.
I'll get back to you on that. I got to think. Crazy situations.
Think on that one, because you've mentioned masterminds multiple times. And our motto for Growth House is you become who you surround yourself with.
Absolutely.
That's why, I host private dinners. We have our own mastermind. I'm a part of so many masterminds, spend tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands throughout, the last 4 or 5 years. So what kind of role has masterminds and even mentors played in your life?
I mean, game changer. I mean, completely changed my life. The first person I ever paid was Austin. We talked about him a few times now. Somebody's been in the business 6, 7 years and has learned all the hardships. I mean, why not? I mean, you look at it in dollars and cents right now, but the stuff it saves you over those couple years is insane. So I'm in 2 masterminds now. One on like the education brand, it's called The Family, and then Collective Genius on the real estate side. And it's just, if you can get yourself in a room with like in the family, the biggest real estate influencers and coaches that you can imagine, you see on Instagram, they're in that room and they're literally just opening up the doors to their business. That's invaluable. You pay 20 grand a year to do it. It's like, sign me up for as many of those as I can. It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, I love that too. You mentioned they're opening up their secrets, but also a lot of times, you correct me if I'm wrong in this group, they're opening up behind the curtain where you're like, wait a minute, they actually aren't perfect. They don't have it all figured out.
That's the
I
best.
think that's sometimes the most like reassuring. You're like, I'm actually doing okay. Because you
Yeah.
get to see the people that you kind of idolize, you look up to, because all they show is a highlight reel, which is kind of how it's supposed to be on Instagram, whatever. But in reality, it's like, no, they're human too. And then for me, when I get in those rooms, I have more belief in myself. I don't know if you felt the same thing.
Dude, exactly the same. I mean, that's the biggest thing. And even like local, I've got he's now one of my buddies. He officiated my wedding. But when I got into real estate, he owns about 300 single family houses. This big guy that everybody talks about. And I'm at a meetup, and you're shy when you're at these first things. And I was like, who is this guy? And then I see a drunk dude do a barrel roll on the ground. And I look over at him and I'm like, that's who you guys are talking about? This is the guy that owns $50 million of real estate? I could do this shit for sure. No problem. So it's just exposure to those things. And if you're not exposed to it, you'll have those limiting beliefs.
Let me ask you 2 questions. Number one, when you're just getting started, what type of masterminds, or you have your own education program, what do you think someone who's just starting and want to get involved in, let's say, wholesaling,
Yeah.
where should they look? And what should be their criteria? And like, all right, is this legit or not? Because I know that's a huge question for most people who are just starting to invest in themselves.
Yeah, if you don't have any money, so I always bucket into two: money or no money. No money, go work for a person. Go work for somebody. Go pour your time, because your time, just as brutal as it sounds, is not valuable if you don't have any cash and if you have no career capital. So go work for somebody and bring value to them. And just act like, because I've had both people. We have interns all the time. I have the one that doesn't take advantage of the opportunity. They kind of just sit there and hope it's going to come. And then they got the other person that they take it and they run with it. Got to be that second person, because it's not going to come to you even if you put yourself in the right seat. You have to ask the questions. You still have to extract. And two, just make sure you're investing in somebody that is like will allow you to vet them. It's like, hey, let's hop on a call with you or your team and like run me through a couple of your deals you're doing right now, or like, hey, what's your process? What are your SOPs? Like, show me something. And invest in somebody that I think it's important that they're doing the business actively as well, because you need, especially with wholesaling. Like flipping it can kind of transcend, but wholesaling is always changing. Marketing channels, the legalities, that stuff is really important.
So true. Yeah. Because, a lot of influencers out there like, yeah, buy my course. Like, when did you last do a deal? Oh,
Yeah.
2010.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's very true. Find someone who's active. It's great.
Yeah, you're out there. My friends in Ohio would always say that the Arizona space was the guru capital of the world for a while.
Bro, it kind of still is for real estate. It's
Yeah.
when I moved out here 3 years ago, I didn't realize that. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, all these guys I used to follow on Instagram, they're like right over here.
There's some good
So,
dudes
yeah.
out there. I got some really good friends out in Arizona that are crushing.
Who's some of the main people out here that you know and connect with?
Kurt Nasewis and Danny Bickbrand. Do you know them?
No, not yet.
They do a lot of business in Mesa. They're doing like 200 wholesale deals a year right now.
Oh, wow. Okay. So they're moving.
Crushing. Yeah. And then like Tino, I know him a little bit.
Shark Tino.
Yeah. From like talking at one event, and then like social media, we keep up with each other, but those are mostly the two.
That's awesome. And then what about you? As you are now, have reached a certain level of success and looking to keep growing, how do you decide what rooms to put yourself in?
That's a really good question. I mean, it's got to be people that are doing more. So we just joined CG Premier, which is you have to be doing over 100 deals a year. I think it's like 2 million gross. And the next one up is 10 million. So it's like, okay, we clearly have to get, if we want to be in that room, if the people are cool, like we have to strive for something else. And then like, I don't know, I just don't really like being around like chest pumpers. Like, I don't really care about, like, you get to those certain rooms, people aren't like pumping their numbers at everybody. It's more of like the tactical, how are you hiring the right people? How are you keeping good talent? Like, that's the stuff I really want to learn, because really that's the next level of scale, unless you're in the tech company that has that bell curve of if you have a software. But beyond that, like a real estate company, to grow it is okay, how are you hiring the right virtual assistants? How are you hiring the right team members? How are you keeping them? How are you keeping them happy? Like that's the big stuff.
So true. It is interesting because I've been in, rooms with a lot of different variations of success financially. And like the people that are in 6 to 7 figures, they like to talk a lot about their numbers. And then
Of
once you get
course.
to like eight, and then once you get to nine, like last night I hosted a private dinner. It was like all 9 figure guys and a couple NFL players who are now getting into real estate.
Yeah.
And literally no talk about numbers.
No,
It's like,
it's
this is a whole
understood.
different lingo.
Like you don't have to
Exactly.
be a
You
douchebag at
don't
that.
have to.
Yeah. But you've earned your right to not like, I just know some people, even in my market, they're like every conversation they have to bring up how many deals they do. It's like nobody cares. It's
Mhm.
like how many minutes do you spend with your child a day?
Mm.
That's the numbers that are mattering to me because I have a 6 month old now, and it's like it puts it all into perspective. Like I don't care about how many deals. I want to take care of my family.
That's deep. Talk to me about that real quick because I'll get there eventually. So 6 month old man, and what kind of perspective shift did you have? Everyone says once you look at that, child that your life kind of changes.
Yeah,
Was
it
that true
definitely
for you?
changes. I didn't have like this moment of like, oh, this is insane. I mean, it's coming for 9 months, so it's not like this is crazy. But it reassured the things that I was working so hard for so long. It's just like okay. And my wife quit working too, so she was gonna go back after her leave. She's a nurse, and she was getting all nervous. And I was like, you know what? How about you just don't? So that was also a game changer too. And then it's just okay. Now it's definitely all on me to make it happen. So it's a good amount of pressure, but I think kids need to stay home at least till 6 months at least. It's just people don't understand how small that baby is when the mom has to go back to work.
For sure. Well, talk to me about, now what does it look like? What are you looking to do in the next 2, 3 years, and then maybe zoom out to 5 years? Because I know I used to ask people 10 years, and they're like, dude, I have no idea what's tomorrow. So like the next few years, and then 5 years, where do you want? Call your shot, Tommy. I want to hear this.
2 to 3 years, I want to be at, I think, 5 million net in our business. I mean, so that's probably doing at least 10 gross. So being at a 50% margin, staying pretty lean, having good people on our team, and continue to build our portfolio. And I really, really, the end goal for me now, like seeing how involved real estate investing is, either get into way bigger deals or lend private money locally, like having not a fund, but lending to people that I know and maybe I've taught or vetted, because the amount of money I've paid to lenders is insane. And some of them, I mean, they just rely on me to pay them. I mean, multiple six figures a year, and that sounds pretty amazing. So that's the position. Probably in 3 to 5, that's going to be that. So get 10 million liquid and just play around with that, and that's kind of the active money.
I love it. And then talk to me about your education program. Is that something that you're looking to scale and heavily focused on?
Yeah, I'm pretty focused in it just because I mean we've systemized our real estate business pretty well. We've got good people, at least for now. So yeah, it's just helping out people, teaching them our like the stuff we do works. It's not anything like magic, but it's just it works. I'm teaching people construction, and it's cool to see people kind of turn that knob and learn. I'm definitely scaling it, but with the right people. So I don't want just anybody, but somebody that's going to take action and actually respect what we're trying to help them with.
I love that. It's probably one of the most rewarding things, just seeing,
So
someone get the light bulb click, especially if they're new. They're
yeah.
like, oh man, your life is about to change just by getting this one deal because now the confidence is
Yeah.
momentum's going to continue.
My favorite on that is like it's the people that are doubting it, so that because the internet space is so diluted with just BS and these guru people that just are literally doing it for money. Well, the money's great too, so like I don't ever hide that, but I love the doubters that are like, man, I don't know. And I'm like, I promise you, if you come in, I'll give you your money back if it's not. But in 3 months, like I had a guy that I host free events around town. He's like, dude, it's the best decision ever. I'm like, I tried to tell you that, you just gotta
Yeah,
listen.
I love that, dude. Walk me through two things. You can do book or podcasts. Top three books or podcasts that you've maybe recently, not Rich Dad Poor Dad, Tommy. Don't give me that one.
No,
Give
I'm
me
not.
some recent books that you're like, or podcasts you're like, these are amazing. They've helped me level up, whatever.
Number one, the book that I always recommend is Who Not How. Amazing book. So just a mindset shift going from a hustler to like delegation. It's just a master class in how to change your mindset on that. So I actually need to read it again. It's been like a year or two, just to re-center of what matters. And then, I really, really like not the like it political as much, but Andy Frisella's podcast, Real AF. The stuff that he talks about is just everything I believe in as far as like hard work. It takes time. I mean, you're 5-10 years into a business, once things start to sprout and come to fruition, like putting your head down and work hard, just in a space and life full of just everybody wants it today. It's just that constant reminder of like, this shit does not happen overnight.
Yeah, these young kids need to listen to that one.
Young bucks got to listen up.
All right, you got one more for me?
What else I got? I like Ed Milet's podcast too.
Yeah, classic. Great guy. I love it. Well, dude, Growth House, we're very much a go-giving community. So people are going to reach out, but they're not going to say, hey, Tommy, can I pick your brain? None of that BS. If they do, I don't know them. They're not my people.
Right.
So we want to provide some kind of value to you first. So what's something, could be something as small as, hey, go subscribe on YouTube, go follow me on Instagram. What's something small or something big that you can get value from us when we reach out to you?
Just shoot me a follow on Instagram, YouTube if you want, and shoot me a DM. I personally respond to everything. If you ask a question, you're going to get an answer. So if you want a high level answer, ask me a question that's deeply thought out, and I will give you my best answer I can for those. I go live on Instagram typically every Monday. So pop on those and come with questions, because I literally, there's one thing about me, I don't hold back on really anything. There's nothing to hide. Everything's out there in some way, shape, or form. You're going to find it. So I'm just going to give it to you as much as I know.
Tommy, it's been a pleasure, man. I'm actually looking forward to connecting and staying in touch.
Next time I'm out in Arizona, I'm going to hit you up. I'm super excited to connect even more.
Absolutely. Jesse Ray, Growth House Podcast. We're out.